Okay, gentlemen, today we're looking at equation of a line given slope and a point. So just to get our juices flowing, let's do a little bit of review. We're writing the equation of a line here parallel to this. It's in standard form, and so we want to convert this to y equal mx plus b format. So let's start off with our original equation. If I convert it to y equal mx plus b format, like this, when it's in that format, I can tell what the slope is right away. And we know that parallel lines have the same slope. So let's change this to y equal mx plus b format. I'll leave my negative 2y here, and I'm going to send 8x over the other side and negative 5 over the other side, and they will change signs. So I'll have negative 8x plus 5. I want to isolate the y. I really want y equals, how do I get this alone? I divide by negative 2. If I divide that by negative 2, then I've got to divide the right side by negative 2 because it's an equation, which means both sides are equal. And whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side to keep the equation equal. So negative 8x divided by negative 2. We know negative divided by negative is positive. So negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4, so it's 4x. And 5 divided by negative 2 is simply negative 5 over 2, because positive divided by negative is negative. So my slope is 4. There it is right there. And a parallel slope would also be 4. So I could make up any equation and just say y equal 4x, and I'll just say plus 3. Because the question didn't tell me any other information. It just said write an equation of a line parallel, so it could be any y-intercept in this case. So I've chosen 3. I could put that in standard form. If I want standard form, I just have to sneak the y in there instead, and I have to write this 4x minus y plus 3, and it would equal 0. If the y comes over, I'd be left with 0 over there. So either one of those would be the right answer. Let's try perpendicular. We know perpendicular means negative reciprocal slope, or flip and change the sign. So let's write our equation here, 2x plus 4y minus 1 equals 0. And we want to see what our slope is, so let's write it in y equal mx plus b format. The 4y will stay here, and we'll get rid of this, and we'll add 1 to both sides as well. So negative 2x plus 1, just changing signs here. And we have 4y divided by 4, so that we end up with y equal. Divide both sides by 4. Negative 2x divided by 4. Negative divided by positive is negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And 2 divided by 4 is 1/2, so negative a half x. And then 1 over 4 is plus 1 over 4. So our slope is negative a half. Our perpendicular slope is the negative reciprocal, so flip it. 1 over 2 becomes 2 over 1, or just 2. And it was negative, and now it stays positive. So our new slope is 2. So I can write the equation of a line, y equal 2x. Again, I can make up anything I'd like. Let's use lucky number 7. I can write that in standard form by saying 0 equal, and I'm just going to bring the y over, 0 equal 2x, or ax in this case, minus y plus 7. Ax plus by plus c equals 0, correct? That's what we're looking at for standard form. Okay, our learning goal today is to determine the equation of a line with one point and a slope. Now, if it tells me the slope, that's easy. We just did some of that up above here. We found out what the slope is. But if it tells me a point that the line goes through, that's a different, that's more information than we had before. So take a look at this. If you have a line that has a slope of, let's say here at the origin, and it goes up 1, 2, 3, and over 2. So 3 over 2 has a slope like that. So rise is 3, run is 2. So the slope is 3 over 2, or 1.5. If I draw another line like this, all these lines are parallel. However, so they all have a slope of 3 over 2. However, if I say, oh, write the equation of a line that has a slope of 3 over 2, it could be any one of these lines. But if I identify a point and tell you it goes through 3, 0, which is right there, in that case, that line has a specific y-intercept that's going to be right here. If I tell you that that point goes through 6, 1 that might be right here on that line, and that's going to have a specific y-intercept of right here. So by identifying this just a slope, there are an infinite number of lines that can have that slope. But as soon as you tell me it goes through a certain point, now you're pinpointing the trajectory of a specific line which will have a specific y-intercept. And here's how we calculate that. Let's take a look at these questions here. So the slope is 3, so y equal 3x. And I'm going to say plus b because we don't know the y-intercept. We're not just making it up this time because it's telling us that our line has a slope of 3 and it goes through this point specifically. If that's the case, we are going to take our x value here and our y value. So let's start with the y because y goes first. We're going to sub that in for y, and we're going to sub this in for x. And I'll get negative 5 for y equal 3 times, and I'm putting 3 in for x, plus b. Let's move that over here. Negative 5 equal, and then we know 3 times 3 is 9 plus b. I want to get the b by itself, so I bring the 9 over this side, and it becomes negative 5 minus 9. And negative 5 minus 9, again, when you're subtracting integers, negative 5, change subtraction to addition, and the following to its opposite. So I have negative 5 plus negative 9 equal b, so negative 14 is b. Therefore, my equation, y equal, we know the slope is given to us, 3, and the y-intercept is negative 14. That's the equation of the line that we're looking for. Because it has a slope of 3, again, it could have an infinite number of, there are an infinite number of lines that could have a slope of 3, but only one passes through the point 3, negative 5. So we plug in 3, negative 5 into the equation. Let's try it again, or you could try this one on your own if you like. These ones are a little bit different. This one has a slope of 5, so we know y equal 5x, but it's passing through the origin, and you know if it passes through the origin, then it's direct variation, for example, something like that. But in this case, there is no y-intercept. We won't write what plus 0 because it doesn't exist. There's just no use putting it there. So y equal 5x. If a line is parallel to the x-axis, we know any line can be parallel to the x-axis, but this one specifically goes through the point 3, negative 4, which we could say is somewhere like this. In that case, it's that line right there. That's the one we're specifically looking for. And if that's the case, we know a horizontal line that's parallel to the x-axis. That's just code word for a slope of 0. Because if it's horizontal, it's completely horizontal. It's like a flat roof. It's got a slope of 0. Well, if the slope is 0 and it passes through negative 4 on the y-axis, then the equation is y equal negative 4. Or you could sub in 0 for the slope, say 0x, and it passes through negative 4 on the y-axis, and 0 times x is 0, so the equation is y equal negative 4. That's the equation. If a line is perpendicular to this one, well, the current slope is negative 2. The perpendicular slope is the negative reciprocal. We have to flip and change the sign. So let's flip that. Negative 2 is really negative 2 over 1. Let's flip it, and it becomes 1 over 2. And it was negative 2, and so now it will be positive 1/2. So we flip it, we did, and we change the sign from negative to positive. So that's our new slope. So the equation of my new line will have a slope of 1/2. So y equal 1/2 x, and I'll write plus b. I don't know where it's going to cross the y-axis, but I technically do because it's telling me the trajectory of that line. So let's sub in 1 for x and negative 3 in for y. Negative 3 in for y, and 1 for x. Be careful because we seem to have a habit of taking the first number that's a 1 and wanting to plug it in first. But that's not the case. We have to make sure we're looking at the y value and x value appropriately. So I have negative 3 equal, and 1/2 times 1 is 1/2, plus b. I'm going to take the 1/2 and bring it over to that side. I'll do that up here though. So I'll have negative 3 minus 1/2 equal b. Negative 3 minus 1/2 is the same thing as saying negative 3 plus negative 1/2 if I change the subtraction to addition and change the following sign to its opposite. Now I need a common denominator. That'll be 2. So this becomes negative 6 over 2. How did I get that? Well, we know that I'll show you quickly. We know that 3 is really negative 3 over 1, and the common denominator is 2. I'm just gonna write minus 1/2, and so we have 1 times 2 is 2, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So negative 6 plus negative 1/2, or negative 1, sorry, is negative 7. So my answer is negative 7 over 2 equals B. If that's the case, my equation is going to be y equal, and our slope, our negative reciprocal slope was 1/2, so 1/2 x, and we know B is negative 7 over 2. That just goes up there, and that's it. That's the equation of a perpendicular line, perpendicular to this line here, and passing through the point 1, negative 3. Let's look at this one here. This is perpendicular to negative 3/5 x plus 6. Slope, identify it as negative 3/5. The perpendicular slope is the negative reciprocal, so flip it and change the sign to positive. Now this one's passing through the point 1, negative 3. So we write y equal 5/3 x plus b, and we're going to solve for b by plugging 1 in for x and negative 3 in for y. So negative 3 equal 5/3 times 1 plus b. Negative 3 equal, well, 5/3 times 1 is 5/3. And now we're going to take this 5/3 and bring it over so we can isolate b, and I'll get negative 3, negative 3 minus 5/3 equal b. Common denominator this time will be 3. This one is already a 5, and this is really imaginary denominator of 1. So 1 times 3 is 3, negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. And again, subtraction, we change to addition and change the following sign to its opposite. So we're left with negative 9 plus negative 5, which is negative 14, and it's over 3 equal b. So the equation y equal 5 over 3x minus 14/3. And that's the equation of the line that's perpendicular to y equal negative 3/5 x plus 6. All right, you can try those again on your own and see if you get the right answer. If you have any questions, I'll see you in class. Thanks.